Anthony, day 2 here at the Mark. How exciting is this?
You know, what people don't know, I was born at the Mark Hotel. More later.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here. I want to thank everybody at the incredible Mark Hotel. If you watched yesterday's show where we really got involved in how luxury hotel comes together, man, that was a great episode. Anthony, so good to see you, my friend.
But I'm not kidding when I say it's hard because you're sitting right here.
I know.
But we're all vaccinated, so everybody's sitting next to each other.
I know. This is the first time we've been this close in, I don't know, 14 months?
So when I say I was born in the Mark Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
I should have been. Because when I walk into a place like this, I got my suit on.
Right.
I got our guests next to me. I got all these people that are just true hospitality ninjas in this hotel. I'm like, I should have been born here. I should live here.
Right.
This is what I should do every single day of my life. There's a spirit when you're in a hotel at this level that is just like no other spirit. Can I tell them the corkscrew story? I just told the gentleman.
You certainly can, but our incredible guest is sitting here. I mean,
he is, but let me tell the corkscrew story.
Right.
Well, let's introduce him.
All right. Let's bring on. We'll do the corkscrew story in a second. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Jerry Inzerillo in person.
Listen, we can all. You can see my hands. We're so close. You can see.
All right. So let's just set the stage over here. Of course, as you guys are watching this, we are not live. We recorded this in advance because it was our one opportunity to do this incredible in-person interview with Mr. Jerry Inzerillo. And incidentally, as you know, we've been talking about it all week. Jerry is up for being Hotelier of the World Award from Hotels Magazine, Jerry, which is really exciting. And I really appreciate all that you've done. And that's why we're making it our personal campaign here to try to make sure that you win this thing. So I want everybody to go to hotelsmag.com right now. That's hotelsmag.com. Sign up, get an account. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. And then vote for Jerry. You can get that really easily by just going there. You'll see it. It's all clear. We're going to run a scroll across the bottom of the screen so you know how to contact him, how to get onto Hotels Magazine and do it. So let's make him Hotelier of the World Award. And honestly, Jerry, you have now been named one of the most influential people in the globe, according to the International Hospitality Institute, along with us two guys over here. I don't know how that happened.
The 50 are sitting at the same table.
I know.
But before we really we talk what you're doing now, you know, when you say vote for someone for Hotelier of the Year, it's a big award. It's the biggest award, and it's really for legends of our industry. So if someone asks me why Jerry Inzerillo, I don't know Jerry Inzerillo say, the spirit which you bring into a room, which you bring into a hotel, the spirit that you brought to Forbes, the spirit that you're working on now, it's the spirit. You should win simply because you inspire people's spirit to really want to do better. We were here, which you don't know this, the audience, but me and Glenn came and we were going to interview Jerry. We're going to interview the staff at the Mark, and we're excited about it. We're really, really excited to see Jerry because we haven't seen him in a long time, and it's a privilege to even call him a friend. We walk in the room, and the who's who of the hotel business show up to kiss the ring. Every time the door opens, another person comes in, and everybody at the highest level of our industry. I had no idea that this was Jerry's cameraman.
No. If you were here an hour earlier when I was standing out on Madison Avenue giving out free bagels. Look, I'll give you a free bagel if you come into the Mark But great to see you guys.
Well, it's great to see you. And you and I had a conversation the other day on the phone, and we were talking about your lovely family, your beautiful wife, and your daughter. So what's going on with that little superstar that's going to run the world, your daughter?
Well, you know, when you are a family dedicated to service, as the three of us know, there's a lot of sacrifices that go with that because you're always taking care of your guests. Your lives are interrupted. Because there's no such thing as a holiday, and you know you're looking after your guests 24 hours a day. Thanksgiving belongs to your guests. The Christmas belongs, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, they belong to your guests. So there's a lot of sacrifices. So you really need a very special significant other in your life, and then when the children are involved, that's very important. I'm blessed because my great daughter Helena will be 15 in August, going to boarding school now at Hotchkiss.
15 going on 40. I met her when she was like 11, and I sat next to her, and I felt like I had to sit up straighter, and I had to read an encyclopedia.
Yeah, she's an amazing individual, and already knows service, knows global, knows to look after people, has that spark, has that love of community. So, we're very blessed. She just spent 5 months with me in the kingdom.
Wow.
Not easy for someone in 8th grade.
No.
Because she had to do a school, at that time, daylight savings time, it's 8-hour time difference. So her school was 4 p.m. to midnight.
Oh my goodness.
Kept her straight A's.
Wow.
Mom came, Prudence was with us for 4 months. Loved it. We live in a hotel. We live at the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh. So the staff there
sounds rough.
Yeah, well, they're family to us. It's very interesting.
You just said, if I can interrupt you, and I dare to interrupt you, but you just said it seems rough.
No, it actually is.
It is. because you're in luxury, your family's coming, you're away from your family a lot, and Jerry, I'm sure you're going to enlighten us on what you're working on. He's creating something that's never been created. He's creating something that no one said would be able to be created. And that the only person on earth with that force that can do something like that is Jerry Inzerillo. You walked in this room and you had every single person just mesmerized. So that, to me, yes, it seems glamorous. It's not.
Right.
It's not glamorous.
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, before I set up all the gear this morning, I had a lovely coffee with Manuel Martinez, the gentleman who runs this hotel. He lives here, but his family is still in DC, and he has to travel back and forth to see. And he's got young children, like 9, 10 years old, and it's very taxing on a family. But I'm really impressed that your daughter managed to maintain straight A's when my kids can't do that, and they're at home all the time.
Yeah, and one has to be. As a tourism community, empathy is needed in gigantic doses.
Right.
Because to see what we've gone through, we could talk a little bit about coming out of COVID with the good news, with the vaccinations, but just the toll it took on kids and families. And I don't think we're at a point where we know the bottom of it yet. No. I don't think we know what the fallout's going to be. So the fact that certain kids managed to rise to the occasion is quite a tribute to them, and the praise has to go to Prudence because that's when it's a little bit easier when you have one kid. I mean, it's not easy when you're alone as a kid because you always wonder where your siblings are. But when you have one kid, you can focus all your energy. It's different when you have 3. You can't do divide and conquer. 2 parents divided into 3 kids. There's always someone causing mischief.
Yeah, the third one kind of puts you over the edge. One of the things we were talking about before we talk about what you're doing right now, we were talking about the high-end hotels. You and I come from the high-end hotels. We were born into them in some level, and right now we're experiencing things at the 5-star luxury level in hotels with rate. And you were talking about the standard. Talk what's happening right now at the 5-star level and the standards that people are expecting.
Yeah, one thing that seemed to be instinctive to me when we first started gliding into managing the COVID, maybe as early as April of last year, is that I didn't feel that people, once they got out, because I didn't think it was going to take this long to come out the other side of it. Initially, I didn't think it was going to take this long. But I never thought it was going to be a question of rate resistance. But now that people have lost the ability to travel for over a year, now that they feel very, very hibernated and confined, they're going to want that human emotion to go out. And they realize that the value of the money of that is not what they thought it was. In other words, they appreciate the value. So in our industry, especially on the luxury end, I don't think you're going to see rate resistance, but coming out of it is going to be a much more discerning, and if not discerning, you could say, look, someone was discerning if they could afford a 5-star hotel anyway, but they're going to be much more impatient. Now, where it's going to be a big challenge for our industry is, and the two of you know this better
Yes.
than anybody,
Mhm.
it's not the front of the house that makes a 5-star hotel great. It's everybody. So the back of the house is equally as important. So when you lose a majority of your staff and you have tremendous interruptions in housekeeping and repair and maintenance and things like line cooks and pot washers and dishwashers and telephone operators, and engineering staff, you realize how valuable every single one of those team members are. And to get them back up to speed and to get a lot of them who have dropped out of the industry to go work somewhere else, that's going to be a big challenge.
Right.
I think it's going to take the luxury segment. I think it takes 24 months to get back up to 2019 standard levels.
But you think
Wow.
standard levels? I agree with you. And it's they were looking. I know a couple of hotels in the city, 5-star hotels, are looking for front desk agents. When was the last time a 5-star hotel was looking for a front desk agent? People don't leave, or they get promoted. I was just having that experience as far as standards. We were talking about right before we, or actually as we were opening the show. They made a beautiful spread for us here at the Mark Hotel. Went into the kitchen to get some water and a little fruit.
And the kitchen is in the suite. That right.
with 7 different rooms. It's so funny because the general manager was saying, well, our presidential suite, I'm sorry, the presidential suite was booked today. We're going to put you in the presidential suite. And I looked at the class, like, this isn't the presidential suite. But anyway, so I was going for a bottle of water, and there was 2 bottles of water. I went for one in particular that had a cap on it and needed a corkscrew or to open it. And I was like looking around, and I can't find the corkscrew. I was like, immediately they just rated one of the best hotels in the country. I'm like, it's a Mark Hotel. It's they don't have a corkscrew. And then I say to myself, being a guy that understands the level that they work at, it's like, there's no way they don't have the corkscrew. So Anthony, stay still and just look. And I'm looking around, and the corkscrew is literally so close to me, it's about to bite me. And to your point, Jerry, is when you're paying this kind of rate, when you're at this level, you have no patience for where's the corkscrew. You stay at a Marriott or a different brand, you're like, okay, the corkscrew's over there, I'll go there. When you're at this level and the rates that they're getting in this hotel, which we won't tell you, but they're incredible, it literally, you want the corkscrew to bite you on the hand and say, I'm right here, I'll open the bottle, you don't even need to help me.
Right.
And so the pressure
Yeah,
on the general manager.
Yeah, and what's going to happen now, the frontline staff are going to see some turbulence, attitudinal turbulence. And with the training, the behavioral training.
I like that phrase, attitudinal turbulence.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of behavioral training. I think a lot of the great hotel companies that, not the independents, where you have a proprietor or a really, really sophisticated general manager that can throw their personality on the line staff. But I think a lot of the great companies, and there's no one exempt from it, all the great luxury companies, I think for the next 12 to 24 months, there's going to have to be special training on what happens when you get this attitudinal turbulence from your guests, because it's going to be overcompensated. And a lot of people don't like being yelled at, or
you think?
They can't handle it.
I got the slides, and I'm just putting them into a PowerPoint. Sorry, everybody. I don't mean to be so quiet, but we're going to talk a little bit about what Jerry's up to. I just got some incredible renders, so I'm putting them in a format so we could all look at them together.
Thanks, I'm glad.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I think the hotel segment will be better. There'll be more turbulence on the restaurant side. But I think cruise ship industry and certainly airlines, get ready. You're going to see a lot of resistance on flights, a lot of arguments.
Yes.
You're going to see a lot of conflict at airports. So I think the service staff is going to have to be very, very empathetic, because people are a little highly wound right now.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking off camera. My driver, who I've been driving with for years, was my family at this point. It's the first time I've ever seen anybody pull up to him, start yelling at him, and he did nothing wrong. Literally nothing. He's the best driver in the world. He's a professional driver, and the guy went out of his mind screaming, and me and him was just like very calm, and we went about our way.
Yeah, I think this is all coming out of.
You're right.
It's gonna take a while, but But then when people get all their freedoms back,
Yeah.
they can exhale. You know, they can have a COVID exhale.
I kind of feel like we're doing that today.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Our COVID exhale came. Should we look at the camera or each other? I'm going to
Look at the camera if you can. The audience will like it a little bit better.
So
it's weird to be right next to each other, but look at the cameras.
So we came in today, and I saw Jerry. Immediately, he took his mask off. I took my mask off. We were hugging. Then everybody else came in. I know everybody's got their shot that's in the room. Everybody's masked off. We're all hugging. We're shaking hands.
Yep.
And everybody's like, that wouldn't happen. And it was natural as could be. And not only natural, it's you. I'm demanding it now that I'm double vaccinated. It's like I'm done. Well, it's only a 97% chance. It's like, yeah, I understand that, but even if I get it, I'm not going to get sick. And everybody I'm around is vaccinated. So it's time to get back to normal.
Yep.
Like I can't sit at a table with somebody with their mask around their neck or anything. It drives me nuts. It's like we did everything we're supposed to do to get here.
Mm-hmm.
I was a good boy. I did everything I was supposed to do. You did everything you were supposed to do. Now we're vaccinated. Science did what they were supposed to do. Now we need to start making sure people can earn a living.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And the one thing that we said early on, March of last year, people are going to travel. It sounded like a pep talk. They're going to travel in greater numbers. Now, you have distribution channels, and there was widespread layoffs for every single legitimate economic reason.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get all your air carriers back up and running, all your rail, all your tour buses, all your cruise ships. It's going to take a while logistically to get that back up. But I think if the vaccines roll out, you don't have weird variances, and the vaccine companies say that the antibodies can stay in your body for 24, 36 months, even if you need a booster shot at some particular point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think by 2023, you could see very, very major movement in global GDP on tourism.
Right. Well, that's all encouraging news. And you, Jerry, are tasked with a lot of responsibilities over there in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I've got some great slides now that you guys just sent to me. Yeah. So, we've been focusing so much in the last few times that you've been here on you being a light for the industry to get through. But let's talk a little bit about you and what you're up to. Could you start off at the beginning? How did you get involved with the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and what was the opportunity, and what made you go overseas to do it?
Yeah, thank you. This is very, very exciting to talk about. Almost 6 years ago now, when the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, became king of Saudi Arabia.
Right.
One thing that he has always been devoted to, in fact, loves, he loves the birthplace of the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And the way you would say a ray of sunshine, mm-hmm. or if you're a music fan, you love someone like Ray Charles, mm-hmm. the birthplace is an Arabic name, beautiful name called Diriyah.
Right.
Now, Diriyah is in central Riyadh. It lives in the middle of the city. Mm-hmm. But going through central Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the principal city, Riyadh is a G20, the kingdom is a G20 country. Mm-hmm. Riyadh is 7.2 million people, but growing to 20 million people. The Crown Prince wants it to be, in the decades to come, one of the great cities of the world,
right,
and is putting the infrastructure in to grow it that way. So in the middle of the city is one of the most beautiful historic oases. The oasis is called Wadi Hanifa. And years ago...
Wadi Hanifa?
Hanifa. A wadi is a valley,
mm-hmm.
Or a riverbed.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's an oasis.
Did they teach you that in Brooklyn?
Yeah, that's right. In Brooklyn, we grew up in Wadi Coney Island. Coney Island is a type of wadi, except we didn't think of it in those days. So what happened is that 300 years ago, people settled in that oasis and built an extraordinary city out of mud, which is still there. But now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Right.
But because it's not a theme park, it's not a Disney World, and because everybody's going to want to come to the kingdom now that we've opened it, I mean, post-COVID, we opened the kingdom to tourism in September of 2019, only to 49 countries plus Hong Kong and Macau. We were doing 55,000 visas a week.
Wow.
But what's interesting to know is I didn't know that it wasn't open to tourism before that. I know that's going to sound silly, but it opened 2019 in September for the first time in how many years?
90, well, forever really, since the kingdom will have its 90th birthday. But now you're right in that some people didn't know it was open, but others said, well, wait a minute, you have tourists there. You had 16 million tourists before that. Yes, but they were pilgrimages to two holy cities of Mecca and Medina. And we're putting plans in place now to allow pilgrimages to go from 16 million to 30 million a year to the two holy cities. And the two holy cities are amazing places. Yeah, Mecca, of course, the home of Islam, and Medina, the home of the Prophet Muhammad. So the kingdom is being open to that. But the reason why Diriyah is very important is because it's the home of Al Saud, the ruling family. This one family has ruled for 130 years, even pre-independence. So the king said, I want this restored. Now, in order not to trample it, we put together, the Crown Prince put together a bold vision for a cultural, historical city that I have the privilege of being CEO, which is called the Diriyah Gate Development Authority. But in its first phase, we'll have 30 hotels, 19 in the first phase, 100 restaurants, new universities, 6,000 residences, souks, 9 museums, world-class museums. So it will be the largest cultural heritage city in the world.
Does this job still sound glamorous to you?
It sounds pretty amazing.
It sounds pretty hard.
Right? It sounds really, really, really hard.
And if it's not hard, what makes it hard is that the Crown Prince is one of the finest CEOs you'll ever meet, but he works an 80-hour week.
Really?
So if the Crown Prince works an 80-hour week and he's the boss, you work an 81-hour
at least.
So did you ever have a moment in developing what you're developing, which is a huge task? Did you ever have the moment where you just put your hands in your face and go, oh my God, this is bigger? Like, even though all your skill set, everything that you've done in your career, have you had those moments where you're like, wow, this is a lot?
Oh, absolutely. You have them if you're human. It's usually sometime between 2 and 3 a.m. You're in the shower after finishing a long day. And you say to yourself, okay, we had a great day today. We got a lot done. The Crown Prince gives us a ton of time. He approves every single design, every single rendering. But then there's days you say to yourself, this is big time, because the first phase of the project is 20 billion US dollars.
Ooh, I got to tell you, him saying something is big time means something right there. Jerry, I'd like to see what you guys are up to. So I'm going to bring these in here and see if I could get this to work right. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, now we're very, very blessed because the Crown Prince in his vision wants people to walk through the old city without a lot of surface traffic. So we do not see Diriyah, the old city, the historic city, with the kinetic energy of Cairo, for instance. We see it more like a Marrakesh or a Florence or a Fez or a Siena.
Right.
So what we're doing, what you're looking at here is interesting, because in the central province of Saudi Arabia is a long-standing tribe, and it's spelled N-A-D-J, but pronounced the Najda tribe. Well, the Najda had a certain type of architecture that was built out of mud. So all of these buildings are cladded and built out of the mud, same technology as 300-400 years ago. But all of that stone that you see in those escarpment walks, this is a big walking path to a plaza.
Right.
This is all quarried in Riyadh. It's called Riyadh stone, similar to the way Jerusalem has the Jerusalem marble. Right. Now, what's amazing about this picture, you can see everybody walking.
Right.
Is that in order to do that, we had to build, and are doing right now, an entire underground city below it that includes over 40,000 parking spots.
Wow.
So you drive below and come up into the old city. That required the excavation of 6 million square meters of soil. That's 700,000 dump trucks.
Oh my goodness! If I recall, I think Jerusalem has some parking like that too. That was built underground right by the old city. Yeah,
So
that is unbelievable.
700,000 dump trucks. Think about that. 700,000.
That's unfathomable.
Count the 700,000. See how long it takes.
1, 2.
Now we're moving right now, just to put throughout the master plan, which is 10 kilometers. We're moving to put some soil where we need it, right?
Yep.
We're moving over 2,000 truckloads a day, every day, 7 days a week. So right now, Diriyah, which is small by what the Crown Prince calls giga projects.
Right.
This is the largest civil engineering project in the world right now.
Oh my goodness. So you said you're saying that these buildings are going to be built with old world techniques from 300-400 years ago with the mud?
When you see some of the buildings, the smaller buildings, restaurants that are 1 level or 2 levels, this is a great shot. This is a nighttime shot looking out over one of the plazas, and then in the distance on the left, if it is, you can see the Wadi, which is a big riverbed planted with millions of the palm trees from Diriyah.
Right.
And Diriyah produces a beautiful golden date, very delicious golden date that everybody can see. We have working farms there. People can go visit the farms, learn about the dates. But what will happen is that on the smaller buildings that don't need huge structural beams and integrity, like if you had to build a big Apple store, right, a 3-4 story store, you need structural steel, you need elevators, you need physical accessibility ramps, you need air conditioning. Well, we will build that.
Right.
Then clad it around it will be the authentic material. And everything is done in that today.
So similar to like way skyscrapers are built, the structural integrity has nothing to do with the cladding on the outside of the building.
Correct.
Right.
But the difference is that the Crown Prince is unbelievably strict on a few things. Authenticity.
Yes.
So this is like if you go to Las Vegas, you can understand why someone put the pyramids in Las Vegas, because if you can't go visit the pyramids.
Wait, I thought the Egyptians put the pyramids in Las Vegas.
Yeah, like somebody told me that too.
No,
maybe
Frank
Egyptian, maybe an Egyptian, right? If you have the Eiffel Tower.
Right, yeah.
Now, if you have Diriyah, which is the birthplace of civilization, it will look like a fake Diriyah.
That's right.
And the Crown Prince is not having any of that.
Yeah.
So everything has got to be done in the authentic material.
I'm struck by the rendering on how authentic it looks. It's hard to believe that this has not yet been built
I was going to say,
when it looks hundreds and hundreds of years old.
We have to tell everyone that this is a rendering because it looks that good. And I've seen a billion renderings in my life, and I'm like,
right.
And what's interesting is that the Crown Prince is meticulous because he doesn't see renderings as renderings. Well, he does, but once he approves it,
that's what he wants.
You're building to the rendering.
Right.
It's not a pretty picture. Of course, it should be, because you're building to that, and that includes very sophisticated night lighting, horticultural planting, and a lot of ways to mitigate heat. Because it's very hot this summer.
Right.
So this is a night rendering looking out over one of the courtyards.
These restaurants and these hotels, will there be brands that we recognize?
Yes, all the great luxury hotel brands. Right now, the Saudi Tourism Authority, through the wonderful Ministry of Tourism, we have an amazing minister, His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib. It's a G20 country, but you're ramping up a tourism profile for 100 million people.
Right.
So you need 1 star, 2, 3, 4, 5. Diriyah is meant for smaller numbers. So we're on the high end. We're high level 4, entry 5, and then the sophisticated 5. So all the big brand names, and next month, June, we're going to be announcing, but 30 of the big power brand names that the big boys, they're all there. All the great restaurant names.
Wow.
But Diriyah is unique because Diriyah has a sophisticated series of Saudi cuisine restaurants, because Diriyah has its own food, its own cuisine.
Terrific.
Saudi has its own cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are going to be surprised by the traditional Diriyah dishes, the traditional Saudi cuisine, and now the modern interpretation. Like you have Jean-Georges coming up a little later.
Mm-hmm.
What would Jean-Georges do there? in terms of interpretation of Saudi cuisine.
Right.
So I have two questions for you. One, or actually a statement. You said in 30 days you'll announce the hotels and the brands and the names that will be coming in. We have an opportunity for you to do it right now. Okay, go ahead. Wait, give him time.
I just got a call from the Crown Prince. He said, "It's okay, Jerry. Go ahead."
So here's what happens. I can announce them right now to you.
But
I don't think that you. I think the show is the two of you. I don't think it's three of us. So when I'm unemployed next week,
right? Yeah.
So
after
there's
the
a
board
front desk
approves
job available here.
That's right.
But so, what is your favorite dish from that area?
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of really, really great dishes, but the Diriyah lamb, which is made with the red chili peppers, and made with in parts of Mexico you have a mole sauce.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They do a sauce with the lamb, which is a reduction from dates with the red chili peppers. Delicious, huh? So I mean, the food in Diriyah and the food in Saudi Arabia, it's going to surprise a lot of people because it's a unique cuisine.
Right.
It's not like the Lebanese have amazing food. Lebanese food. There's a lot of great food in the region, but Saudi's known for it.
What was interesting is, did you notice when Jerry was talking about his favorite dish, it went to like explaining his mother's meatball recipe. In Brooklyn, Italian, he was like, and his hands are like this, and he was explaining it, and then his tone changed, and then you went back to normal, like when you were explaining your favorite dish.
Well, it may not be as endearing as my mother's meatballs. They're pretty good. She makes at 94 years old, she still makes them.
What? Your mother's still with us? That's amazing.
I just celebrated her birthday with her.
Oh, congratulations to her.
And my mother, I'm glad when she was a girl there wasn't crack cocaine on the streets, because my mother's crack cocaine is chocolate.
Uh-huh.
So I bought her that big 96-piece Godiva box set, and she said she's in assisted living, and she said, "I'm going to eat this whole box myself.
Good.
I'm not giving one piece."
Where is she in Brooklyn?
She's in Brooklyn.
Wow.
That's excellent. So let's take another look at what's going on here. So what are we looking at
Again,
in
a rendering.
this
This
picture?
is classical Najda architecture. You could see the mud texture to the buildings, all the Riyadh stone. This is just a regular street plaza. All the great cities of the world have gathering places. We have some extraordinary gathering places around the new King Salman Mosque and the new King Salman University. But the difference here is that for the first time in Najda architecture, His Majesty and the Crown Prince have allowed us to put terraces on the roof, and there you can see some palm, bamboo, if you will, terraces.
That's an interesting statement. Let you put them on there. Was that not culturally appropriate at some point, or is there some other reason?
It wasn't that it was culturally inappropriate, because when the weather was very hot, a lot of families actually slept on the roofs.
Ah, right.
But in traditional Najda architecture, because you wanted to keep the cool, that's why the mud was thick, or the heat in the winter, you have these little triangular windows.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't really terraces, because in those days, with larger families, you sought privacy.
Right.
So you didn't, it's not like nowadays where you want to look over a plaza to see the energy on the street, which is normal for a restaurant. So in classic Najda architecture, we had to incorporate where you would have terraces, because all terracing in Arabia was interior. It was not exterior.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what is the weather like in that area?
Well, it's like the American. This is a great rendering. The American equivalency would be, well, how do you feel in January, February in Las Vegas, right? In Southern California. And then how do you feel in July and August? Well, it's hot. You know, the last 2 weeks of June, all of July, all of August, first 2 weeks of September, that's 12 weeks. You're not dropping below 100 degrees, but Riyadh is dry. It's inland. So it's like Las Vegas. I don't mind it. I went to school in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you take the Miami of the Red Sea, is the great city of Jeddah, right? Now Jeddah is on the Red Sea, beautiful, but more humid, so so it feels more like Miami. So if you don't mind humidity, that's pleasant. If humidity and hot, it's a little bit more uncomfortable. Now here, this rendering is very, very pretty because here you can see the wadi. Here you can see the where to the left where you have all the palms, because we're elevated today is 50 meters above the city of Riyadh on Palisade Bluffs. So this is a rendering from one of the hotels, and you know the people extremely well. But this is one of the 19 first phase luxury hotels.
I already see, looking at this rendering, I already seen this kind of architecture being incorporated into American hotels. I already see other people coming in and trying to duplicate this, because when I see this and I see the luxury, I've really not seen a building or a rendering similar to this in any five-star hotel that I've seen in America. It seems very, very different, but also very, very similar in the sense of it looks luxurious. So I'd imagine you're going to start seeing people popping up.
And we've never exported Saudi culture until now. You know, Saudi culture stayed in Saudi. You know, Saudi food, which we talked about.
Right.
Saudi music, unbelievable musicians. Saudis are legendary poets for years.
Really?
God, the legendary calligraphy, legendary dancing, costuming. So now it's time to say, okay, all cultures share. Tourism is in and out, right? Come visit us, but then let us show you, let us export it, right? And certain countries have done that remarkably well: the French, the German, the Italians, the Spaniards, and now it's Saudi's time to do.
So when's the first hotel going to open where we can break bread?
We have a beautiful Najder mud hotel under construction. I think we'll probably be finished on the first one as early as beginning of 23.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the first museum under construction. We finish our first December. We finish our first district that has 19 new restaurants, major names and Saudi names. But we finished the first phase of the master plan.
Wow.
As early as the first quarter of this new year.
Oh, that's congratulations.
We're going to be there.
Yeah.
And we're going to
We're
announce.
come and do the show there.
That will be amazing.
What's the one thing? Listen, we all grow up, you know, in our own culture, and we all have we make assumptions of other cultures. What's the one assumption that, as an American, that you made that was dispelled?
Well,
Great question.
It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite questions, and if you'll allow me, I like to dispel two. Right, one is hardware, one is software. Okay, the idea, the nagging idea that Saudi Arabia, a very large country, is just deserts and camels and stuff like that. It's an outdated, silly notion.
Right.
And one can't blame the public, because if the kingdom was never open to tourism and to social media and Instagram and pictures, then of course you're going to perpetuate stereotypes that get reinforced without anybody going to see it.
Right.
So one of the big surprises is just how remarkably diverse and beautiful the kingdom is. Like, if you tell people, well, I just came back from Tabuk a few weeks ago, and I was up to my ankles in snow. Would people associate snow with Saudi Arabia?
No.
But they would associate snow with Beirut, Lebanon, but that's when you get to the north. Now you've got the Red Sea, 45% of the Red Sea, which looks like the Maldives, hasn't been touched in thousands of years. I mean, it's pristine. The Crown Prince is a very strict environmentalist. You got Grand Canyon valleys and lush Al Suda. You've got UNESCO Heritage Sites. You've got Al Ula, which is the more beautiful brother of Petra in Jordan. Same tribe, the Nabateans.
Petra's amazing.
Yeah. Well, wait till you see Al Ula.
Well,
because it hasn't been touched and it's not overrun, but it is extraordinarily beautiful. So that's the one. That's a hardware myth. But the big myth, which disturbed me for many years,
right?
Because I had a lot of great Saudi friends, is just how warm and hospitable the Saudis are. So when we opened up for tourism between September and when we had to shut it down for March, in our post reviews, which were done by the thousands by the Saudi Tourism Authority, the number one positive for the kingdom was we had no idea how warm, welcoming, and generous the Saudis were. So that's a great thing. And now there's smaller sub themes. Can women drive? Am I allowed, if I'm married, am I allowed to stay with my wife in the same room? Silly things like that, of course, But like my staff is over 80+% Saudi. 36% of my staff are wonderful Saudi women. 16% of those Saudi women are already in management.
Awesome.
And everybody works well. So that's one thing that will fall away very quickly.
So I have a silly question. Is there social media? Are you allowed to, do you have social media? Do you have a social media account?
Yes, absolutely. And what, sometimes amuses the Crown Prince, because, the Crown Prince, could you imagine running a G20 country, His Majesty in it?
Yeah.
But that's a hard job.
I know. I could hardly manage running the show, so I get it.
One thing about him that you don't get to see is he has a remarkable sense of humor. And he's very, very polite, very generous. But he'll say, here you have countries like Iran and, different places, Russia, where you don't have social media. We have Twitter, we have Instagram, everything. You can do that. Now, you have to be careful.
Right.
Because when it comes to a subject that's very dear to, almost 2 billion people, you can't trample the religion or different things like that, because it would offend a lot of people.
Right.
But if you use social media, it's so widely used on a daily basis in Saudi.
All right.
Well, you're seeing what happened in this country. I would have never believed, it's not to cut you off, but to give you an example, I would have never thought in this country that it got to the point where you could not wear a hat in a certain area without somebody getting angry, or if you say something bad about this hat, people would lose their mind. So even in our country, it's like there's a lot of things you can't say without somebody getting offended or getting upset. So I guess
there's a bigger theme there, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is a very, very powerful thing. When the kingdom hosted the G20 in November of 2020, right to the last minute, almost a month before, we were hosting everybody. All the heads of state were coming. We were ready. Diriyah was going to do the cultural night, and then His Majesty made the right decision to do it virtually. And every single head of state said that it was the most successful G20.
Really?
And, oh yes, absolutely. The feedback from the Secretariat was unbelievable.
I'm just amazed that they were able to accomplish so much in the virtual environment.
And Saudi got particular praise for its empathy and distribution of the vaccines and COVID testing. But one of I did over 100 media interviews in support of tourism in Saudi Arabia. And one of the most consistent questions asked to me was, okay, you as a well-traveled tourism leader, you as an American, what's your favorite thing about Saudi Arabia? Well, it's a good question. And you could answer it different ways depending on who your audience is. But I said two things. One is that the young people of Saudi Arabia, and most of the society is under 35, they're very fired up, they're positive. But here's the big thing, which goes to your question about wearing a hat in certain areas of America. Most of the G20 societies now are highly polarized. And as a result of the polarization, there's negativity.
Right.
Or depression. So if you look at America, and you look at France, and you look at England, and you look at Germany, they're going through very turbulent sociological periods of either pessimism or negativity, or just where people don't listen to each other anymore. They don't allow point of view. So one of the great things that's happening in Saudi Arabia now is that the society is very polite, but very positive. They're very optimistic about the future.
Wow. This is very eye-opening, because the media and the information that we get here comes across as very contrary to what you're sharing with us today and your real-life experiences over there.
And you know what's fascinating to me, and I've said it before, and it'll probably blow my mind until I take my last breath. Here's a kid from Brooklyn. All those words and all those things you're saying, and it's coming to you like you were born in the kingdom. You're a kid from Brooklyn. You didn't know any of that, probably even before you got there. I would imagine you knew some of it, but like your education in the last year or two you've been there, it's been 2 years now?
Yeah, 3.
3. Jeez.
3 years when you broke my heart and left. Okay. And a lot of hearts were broken. But when you left, or when you took this position, the way you speak about the country, the way you talk about the food, the culture, it was like you were born there. Like you weren't born where you and I were born. It's what has led you to that passion to because it's one thing for someone to bring you around, say this is this, this is this, this is this, but you are living it, feeling it, smelling it, tasting it, and it's within you. Did you think it would be like that? Did you think it would take over?
Yeah, yes and no. The yes is that when you assimilate, it always takes you over, because there's a wonderful Native American saying, wonderful, you cannot stop running water. Now, what happens is when you go on the human spirit, that's running water. So when you are invited to visit a country or live in a country, you're invited. So it is your obligation with good manners to respect the culture in which you are and to learn and to contribute. You know, the great singer-songwriter that you know, Sting, he did a song many years ago called Do the Russians Love Their Children? And there was one epic line in it, but it's a good line. We may not share the same ideology, but we share the same biology. Now, what COVID taught us in particular is that isn't there more that joins us together than divides us? And this issue about polarization and people being uptight and yelling, this is not a good thing. But I think COVID will correct some of that. Now, when you travel, you know this because the two of you embody this better than anyone I know. We are quasi-ambassadors. Mm-hmm. We represent goodwill. We represent service. You know, in my TED Talk, I say there's 2 words that trouble me, and I hope they trouble you. And I say on the Latin words, who's the one that came up with the word subservient? Who's the one that said because you serve, you're less? Right. In our world, us, we see service as nobility. Mm-hmm. We see the more I give to thee, the more I have, as Shakespeare said, right? And then who came up with the word subordinate? Because you work with people, they're below you. Well, what is that about? You know? So, you know, like even just getting back to this nomination from Hotels Magazine, which is very, very humbling. Just the nomination itself is a big victory, because for all of us who started out that came from poor families or stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of great people in the industry now. The 2 of you I love and I'm very proud of. But if I had $1 for every time someone snapped their finger at me or called me boy or go, and I would look at them like, are you kidding? You know, have fun now. Right. But you're fueling me. Right. So what happens is that when you go to different cities, go to different countries, if you approach it joyfully, the Crown Prince has said on many occasions, my father taught me when I was young, surround yourself with passionate people. Now, maybe there's an additive to that. And maybe that it's obvious that you should surround yourself with passionate people, no 2 better than you. But maybe it's good to also surround yourself with respectful people. Mm-hmm. People who will listen and say, teach me about what you eat. Now, I told my daughter, since she can talk, you can't say you don't like something until you taste it. Now, if you taste something and don't like it, you don't have to eat it. Right. But you can't say I don't like it without tasting it, because that shows intolerance and non-inclusion. Taste it. You may find out something. So, you know.
Liver, taste liver.
Right.
Now, hey, my grandmother made the best chopped liver ever, just for the record. Right. Need to put that out there.
And I like that. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. You know, give someone a chance. Put yourself in their shoes. And when you see the joy of serving, look, I didn't have it in my DNA to go out into a waiting room and say, your husband didn't make it with cancer. Right. Or the baby's got pediatric cancer. That's not in my DNA. My DNA was joy, festivity, getting people to laugh, enjoying themselves, sharing, right? So if you do that in Saudi Arabia is authentic, it's rich, so you tap into that richness. Now, maybe not every country is as rich. I don't mean monetarily,
Right.
Culturally. But we did the same thing in South Africa. We did the same thing in the Bahamas. We did the same thing in Seychelles, Bermuda, because we're transmission of positivity. And that comes from extracting all those cultural
And
things.
positivity is like running water. You can't stop it. I mean, you really, if it's coming at you, you can't stop it.
Well, and then the other thing is, how do you want to choose to live your life?
Right.
You're around a lot of people that you can live your life in a negative point of view.
Yeah.
But then you carry that sack of potatoes around.
One of the toughest things in life is to surround yourself with the positive people and eliminate the people, to use the popular word today, that it could be toxic to you, that are very negative, because we do.
Yeah.
We pick up the atmosphere of what's around us. Yeah.
Listen, if
I do it.
As we're coming to the end of the show, I want to kind of really focus on why you'd be nominated for an award like this. And the greatest gift, if you walk into a grandmother's house or your uncle's house or family's house, we all have that one person, for some reason, that everyone wants to go to their house and have a party, or go to Christmas or go to Easter. And what is that? What is that thing? Are they spoiling anybody else? Do they know something that somebody else doesn't know? Or is it simply they have a positive spirit? And just alone on your positive spirit, what you've done for this industry, you should win every year.
Oh, no.
Because I've been around a lot of people in my life, and I've been around a lot of players, people who have this level that you hear about. You're like, oh, Jerry Inzerillo, and he's okay. And again, being from the same neighborhood, and you and I had a moment when I first met you, 5 minutes in, and I go, Jerry, come here. And he literally said this to Jerry Inzerillo. I go, You're one of me if you know this. And he answered the question, and he knew, and we were family after that. So I'm not impressed with people from other people. I'm impressed with someone that I meet and I talk to in their spirit. So the embodiment of the industry, of taking care of that young man or young lady that comes from Iowa, or that young man or young lady that comes from another country that may or may not have money, and walking into a hotel and making their dreams really reality, and making them feel like we're all the same. Yes, you may be in this beautiful suite, you may be in this beautiful hotel, you may be next to someone that has a lot more money than your family, but we're all in this together. No one does it better than you.
Well, thank you. I can't thank you enough. It means look, life goes by very quickly. It really does. Whatever cliches. People dismiss the word cliche because they say it's cliche.
Right.
but why did it stick around for 100, 200, 300 years?
Right.
Why did it? I mean, at the end of the day, when I had an incident where a Saudi came up to me, who was one of my security supervisors. And I put a lot of time into security because I don't want them as Gestapo. I want them as people who help someone. You look lost. Can I help you with this? Even something as simple as, where's the trash can? Where's the bathroom? Right. And a guy came up to me, Saudi, just before I left. And he said to me, Mr. Jerry, while we're waiting, we had a head of state coming to visit the Crown Prince. While we're waiting, I never had a chance to tell you this, but you're my father's hero.
Oh.
So I said to him, Khaled, that's very thoughtful of you. But here's what I want you to do. When you go home tonight, I want you to tell your father exactly my words, that he's my hero for producing such a great son, right? But then he said to me, do you want to know why you're my father's hero? I thought he was just being kind.
Right.
The Saudis are very polite. They're very kind.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, when you were general manager of Four Seasons Houston in 1981, you taught a course at the Conrad Hilton School. My father was one of your students.
Wow.
My father was one of your students. So I said,
I got chills.
I know.
I said two things.
It was like, oh my God, how'd I get this old?
Have your father not repeat that story to everybody, because they're all going to think this guy's 110 years old. My father was your student. God Almighty. But no, my point is that After a while, it's not about the rewards. You know what I've said?
Mhm.
Even to all the young people, the money will come, the fame will come, the awards will come. If you go after things for the basis of an award, it's false.
That's right.
What you want is you want respect. You want to earn the praise, and the only way you do it is by going out and earning it. You have to be a good role model.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very proud of both of you and what you're doing for the industry, especially this past year, because people need a positive message.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you a more personal question. What is it? We were just talking about, there's something about, not to take away from anyone else, any culture, there's something about growing up in Brooklyn. What is it that gives you the ability to grow up in Brooklyn, went to schools, but didn't go to the greatest schools in the world, and still be able to sit at the table across from some of the strongest, most powerful people on earth? What is it? And I know it's got to be tied to Brooklyn. What is the one lesson in Brooklyn that taught you how to be able to compose yourself in that arena?
Well, I think there's a generational aspect, but here's the thing: for any kid, boy or girl, where there's no net underneath the trapeze,
There you go.
there's no net.
Yep.
So you learn very quickly. Even if you're hanging on by one finger, you got one finger before you and the floor. Now, once you navigate out of that,
Those are the strongest words you could have said, because that I don't mean to interrupt you, but anyone that is in a soft condition, they've got to take themselves out of that soft condition. Because I've been in both, and the more success or more money I had, the more I have to tell myself, I got to get myself out of this condition because it's making me soft.
yeah. But I'll tell you one other thing that I could say very briefly in a matter of seconds. One of my greatest privileges in my entire life, my entire career, is that I got to know many Nobel Peace Prize winners.
Wow.
Maybe over 24 personally.
Wow.
Two right here.
Two potential Nobel Peace. You know what the common denominator is between almost all Nobel Peace Prize winners?
What?
Peace Prize winners. You know the horror they've been through?
Right.
Prison, torture, this. They all have one thing in common.
Peace.
No, they all have great sense of humor.
Really?
Now, why? When you go through that level of trauma, you know what you realize when you navigate out of it? People take themselves too seriously. Mm-hmm. So when you're with this head of state, when you're with that egotistical CEO, and they think they're more powerful, more mighty than you can look at them quietly with a very big smile on your face and say, Habibi, knock yourself out, because you know the truth.
Right.
And that's one of the qualities. But Brooklyn is one place, but there are thousands of Brooklyns all over the world where people, because that's where character comes from the streets.
Yep.
That's where you're, and you know the other thing that came from Brooklyn, it's not as much now, is a sense of community. Yeah. Right? If you did something wrong, your neighbor told your mother.
Or your neighbor beat the crap out of you before she told you.
No,
right.
But what happened is that you had a sense of community.
So
I hope in the G20 countries that post-COVID, His Majesty taught me an amazing lesson with COVID, because he went on television early and he said, the COVID is not a Saudi problem. It's a human problem.
Right.
We must treat everybody equally. And that set the tone for all the G20 heads of state, right? So if you're a wealthy nation, take what you have and start giving the vaccines to non-wealthy countries. You know, it's not protect your country, but then protect everyone.
Yes, and I think here we're going to start to do that to help some of the other countries that are out there. Jerry, we're out of time.
Thank you.
How about one final thought, so we give you a chance to say anything? And that's also, hey, everybody, go to hotelsmag.com right now and vote for him. Now you understand why he needs to be voted for. Jerry?
I would say to everybody, we're going to get through this. There's more light at the end of the tunnel. Now we can start seeing what the end is going to be. Keep your spirits up. You know, come visit us in Saudi. We say there's only one Diriyah. There's only one Anthony. There's one Anthony, one Glenn. There's only one of those. But keep your spirits up. We're going to get through this very quickly. It's still going to be a bumpy remainder of 2021. But keep your spirit up. We're going to get through this. We're all together. We're one solid industry. So thank you, and God bless you, and look forward to welcoming you to the kingdom.
And you said the most important word, respect, is when you're looking at social media, you're looking at people coming up today, the lack of respect for oneself. Forget about for other people, for oneself. The things that people are putting on social media, the way people are communicating today. Yes, fun is important in a sense of humor, not taking yourself too seriously, but respect. And I think that there's a level that we should never kind of, we should never take for granted. And I think the way we come back together is to respect other cultures. And you can say something, and I may not agree with it. Right. You can do something, you can have a job. Maybe I don't like that you have this job.
Right.
Maybe that, you said something that insulted me, you didn't mean to. Mm-hmm. Communicate and respect each other. I think those are powerful words, and you teach that every day, and you're a blessing in our lives.
Thank you so much for being here, and we'll have you back real soon. So thank you.
Guys. Thanks so much.
Anthony, inspiring, incredible. I can't wait to see what this project is going to look like fully realized. How amazing is that?
It's going to be spectacular. And what I love like they're hard at work doing it, and people are going to see it come out of nowhere. And people are like, "What's this?" Like, I didn't even realize I didn't know anything about Saudi Arabia until today.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. All right, everybody. Apologize for having such a highly visual show, but for those of you listening on our audio feed, check out our video feed. For those of you watching our video feed, check out our audio feed. You can find our podcast, of course, on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you prefer to get your shows. And follow Anthony and myself on social media at Anthony Hotels and at Traveling Glenn. All right, Anthony. Remember, everybody, you got one life, so blaze on. And
when you're at the Mark Hotel, it's really easy to be kind to yourself.
Sure is. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.